Good evening and welcome to this special pre-concert feature. My name is Clint Barrick, station manager of Classical 105.7, Lubbock's new radio station for classical music. And with me are David Cho, music director of the Lubbock Symphony Orchestra, Neil Kurtzman, member of the board of directors of the LSO and our resident opera expert, and Amanda Key, soloist on tonight's concert. David Cho, let me begin with you. What attracted you to Verdi's opera Rigoletto and inspired you to put it in the repertory for this season's concert?
Well, thank you, Clint. I think Giuseppe Verdi translates to this very common sounding name. However, he was arguably the greatest opera composer who was able to really tighten up the drama and compile all this salacious acts, unimaginable bad behaviors in all the characters, and yet in the midst of all that, the beauty of music really inspires us.
How is conducting opera different than an orchestral concert?
Well, I think Dr. Neil Kurtzman could speak more about this, and he always jokes to me, you know, David, opera conducting is so uniquely challenging because it's always one beat away from a disaster. You have this responsibility as a conductor to manage the ensemble of the orchestra, which is usually in the pit, and the singers on stage. To connect the two art forms is a uniquely challenging craft.
This actually is not a complete performance of the opera, no sets and costumes. It's just excerpts of all of the best music, right?
Yes, and the orchestra will be on stage, different from a normal opera performance where orchestra's in the pit. The singers will be in their best evening dress code, and it'll look like we're all going to prom.
Neil Kurtzman, you have a long history with opera in general, and certainly the operas of Giuseppe Verdi. Tell us what is special about Rigoletto, and what should the audience know in preparation for tonight's concert?
Verdi, as David said, and I agree, is the greatest of all opera composers. He is the musical equivalent of Shakespeare. Why? Because he deals with all the emotions and feelings and actions common to all humans. And Rigoletto is a prime example of this. It's his 16th opera. But when he came to Rigoletto, he had come across Victor Hugo's play, The King's Amusement. It depicts the libertine King Francis I of France, and he wanted to set it to music. Now, the Duke in Rigoletto is a monarch who abuses his power, who's a sexual predator, who takes advantage of people who are lower than he is on the social or political scale, and his jester is newly arrived in town. He's only been there for 6 months. And he's a rather nasty character who has only one virtue. He has a daughter who he loves and who he tries to protect. And he won't let the daughter go out of the house except to go to church. And in church, she meets the Duke, who is pretending to be a poor student. She's only a teenager. I suspect she's some ways around 15 or 16, something like that. And she falls irrevocably in love with him. She won't give up no matter how badly he treats her, and he treats her really badly. His courtiers think that the daughter is Rigoletto's mistress. So they kidnap her, turn her over to the Duke, and the Duke rapes her. Nevertheless, Gilda, the daughter, still loves the Duke. And later on, in the third act, when Rigoletto takes her to a tavern where the Duke is cavorting with a prostitute, and she sees how he behaves, she still loves him. So he commissions Sparafucile, the assassin, to murder the Duke. The Duke is so charming, as psychopaths sometimes are until you really get to know them, has charmed the prostitute who is the assassin's a sister, and she begs the assassin to kill somebody else. So he says he'll kill the first person that comes in the tavern if that person comes in before midnight. Gilda, the daughter, she's stabbed by a Sparafucile, put in a sack, and given to Rigoletto in exchange for 20 scudi. And Rigoletto, thinking he has the Duke in the sack, is overjoyed and is carrying the sack to the river where he's going to throw him in. But then he hears the Duke singing a phrase of La Donna Immobile from the tavern. So he knows he can't possibly have the Duke in the sack. Somebody else is in there. He opens it up, and it's his daughter. And they sing a very beautiful duet, and she dies. And the last word in the opera is La Maledizione, the curse. Nobody ever written an opera like this. There are no heroes in this opera. The musical construction is also different from anything else. And it deals with issues that are still with us today. Overprotective fathers, people who sexually abuse their power. It appeals to a whole set of human emotions, which is what the hallmark of Verdi's art is. He depicts those characteristics, vices, virtues common to all human beings.
Amanda Key, you're the soloist on tonight's concert, one of the soloists, and you're portraying the part of Gilda, the daughter, who is the victim of all of these things. You've sung professionally in Europe, this role, in fact. What do you want people to know about this character and about the music that Verdi wrote for her?
She's a very pure and loyal character. I would argue that she's actually quite brave and even Christ-like for sacrificing herself for the Duke and for forgiving her father for his thirst of blood and his plan of revenge that ultimately led to her death.
This is an interesting night in performance for you. The title role character, Rigoletto, is being sung by Gerald Dolter, who was just recently inducted into the Lubbock Walk of Fame. He's the founder of Lubbock Moonlight Musicals and was the former director of the Texas Tech Opera Theater. He's a very significant person for you. Tell us a little bit about your professional relationship with Gerald.
Gerald Dolter is my friend and mentor. He is the one who actually inspired me to move to Europe and pursue an opera career all those years ago. So after finishing my master's degree in Amsterdam, I got to sing in 11 different countries. And it's full circle that I'm getting to perform this with my friend and mentor, Gerald Dolter.
The importance of being able to perform this well-known opera, Rigoletto, in Lubbock is the fact that we have a great orchestra. The Lubbock Symphony, 78 years young, and they are so well seasoned, and we have the energy of our local graduate students who are probably playing the music of Giuseppe Verdi for the first time. And it takes an army of great musicians to back up the world-class singers we'll have to be able to do justice to Verdi's music.
We have several artists performing in the second half in the portion that is devoted to Verdi's opera Rigoletto. You're singing the role of the daughter Gilda. The title role is taken by Gerald Dolter. We have others in the cast as well.
Yes, Richard Troxell will be performing the Duke, and we'll have Alison Light. She will actually be performing Maddalena and Giovannna. That's normally played by two different roles, but in this reduced version, it will be played by both roles. And Chris Markgraf will be playing Sparafucile.
Excellent. I want to thank David Cho, Neil Kurtzman, and Amanda Key for sharing their insights and experience with us today. I'm Clint Barrick. I hope you enjoy the show.